Well, hey everybody, welcome again to another Conversations on Couches episode. My name is Steve, and I'm actually not on a couch today. I'm violating my own rule, but I am with Heath and Lydia, who are sitting on a couch. So, guys, why don't you tell us a little bit about the couch that you're sitting on, and then just introduce yourself to our community.
Okay, well, yeah, this couch is in my apartment and it kind of sucks. It's like when you sit in it, it's just it's not.
Yeah, it's one of the couches that you have to directly sit in the middle, or else
Oh,
it's
yeah.
be slanted on the side.
Yeah, we actually have a better couch like right in front of us, but this is better for lighting purposes. So, you know.
Gotcha.
For you, Steve.
Hey, you got to keep the good lighting for the video. I respect that and appreciate it a lot. Real quick, tell us, like, students graduated, working, like, give people a sense of what you guys are doing here in Davis.
I'll go first. Or should I introduce myself?
Both.
My name is Lydia Gao. I recently graduated from Davis. I studied the same major as Heath. So International Agriculture Development. I currently work at the USDA in Davis, working full time.
Awesome.
And my name is Heath. Yeah, I'm currently finishing up my degree in international agriculture. After that, I plan to stay in Davis, looking for work. We'll see what that looks like. But I'm interested in pastoral ministry, cooperative development, agricultural development, stuff along that line. I mean, both of us are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining in on this today. So what we're doing in this first season of these conversations is we're exploring this topic of beauty. And in our world today, I mean, there's so many things that are challenging that you could even describe as being ugly. I think there's something really important for us in thinking about where do we see beauty breaking through in our worlds. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you guys because so far, the first couple episodes of this run, we've been looking at things that people are sort of passionate about that are more like artistic or craftsmanship based or even vocationally based. And that's great. Those have been really great conversations, but we're going to talk a little bit more about what I would call the relational side of beauty. So I have a question for you about that in just a moment. But before we get to that, give me your working definition of this word beauty, this concept of beauty in your own words. Doesn't need to be, textbook or perfect, but how would you describe what beauty is as a concept to someone?
I know for me, when I think of beauty, I think of something that brings joy to the soul. So I grew up in a country that was primarily Muslim. And when people say like the phrase Allahu Akbar, God is good or God is great, sometimes it's like when you just see something that proclaims the glory of God. And we as Christians can also say that as well. Like you see something and it's like, wow, that just shows the goodness of God, the beauty of God, whether that's a sunrise or anything else that inspires praise in our Creator. So I think that is kind of my working definition.
Fantastic.
Yeah. As for me, I think beauty, I guess like a simple way to describe it for me would be God's design. I'm someone who studied agriculture and is still quite fascinated. And yeah, just looking, I like symmetry as well. I like asymmetry too, depending, on the balance and everything. But especially with agriculture and farming, it's just like if you do it in the way that the plant was designed to do, they react well and they grow well and they look well. And so I think there's a lot of beauty in that.
That's awesome. Thank you guys. I love both of those kind of aspects of how you guys come at the topic of beauty. And I think that there's some things even in your definitions that will probably come back into play in some of these follow-up questions. So let's not forget about some of your definitions there. But the second question, and kind of the big question for you guys that I am excited to hear you reflect on is, again, we're coming at it in this conversation, coming at beauty from the aspect of relationships and people. And I invited you guys to be a part of this conversation because I know a little bit of your stories, and I know that for both of you, this concept or process of recovery has been an important part of your journey. And there is, I think anyway, a lot of beauty in the healing and transformation process that comes from some of those conversations. So as much as you guys are willing, share with us a little bit about how you see these concepts and ideas of beauty at play in relationships, in people, as they deal with their stuff and go through healing and transformation. How do you see beauty sort of popping up in those places?
You can go first.
Okay. I mean, it's a very general question, which I'm grateful for because it gives me a big opportunity to speak, which I like doing. But let's see. I think, yeah, for some context, Lydia and I are part of a 12-step program called Celebrate Recovery, which is for, I mean, really anyone. But yeah, like when people think of a 12-step program, they think like maybe people who are recovering from alcoholism or drug addiction or whatever.
Sure.
And that is not necessarily the case. I think the other misconception that people have is that it's for people who are older, people who've just like done so many things and then they're just like tired and wasted. It's like either this changes or I die. And I mean, that's pretty, I mean, I'm maybe making it sound pretty intense. But I would say for myself and for Lydia, the process of recovery has been about like seeing things in ourselves and speaking for me personally, seeing things in myself that I'm like, I shouldn't continue on like this. I have so many negative thought patterns. I have so many like unhealthy coping mechanisms. And I would like to not be like that. You know,
Sure.
my desire is to do agricultural missions work, pastoral ministry. And if I want to do that, then I think I need to be at a healthy place myself. So for me, feelings of anxiety, feelings of shame, feelings of self-hatred, feelings of codependency, those are all things that have manifested in myself for a variety of reasons. And I mean, I don't think that I'm unique. I think that many people have a lot of those issues that pop up in their life. Like for me, I grew up in a household which was in some senses very controlling, in some senses like, yeah, just a lot of things manifested from my parents' relationships, even from my grandparents' relationships, and came down to me. And I would say that kind of I would like to break some of those cycles, right? So the process of recovery in the past 8 months or so that I've been actively thinking of, that it's been very helpful. It's been very difficult because
Sure.
a lot of these negative thought patterns, a lot of like, oh, I'm not good enough, or oh, what about this? What about that? What about that thing that happened in my life so many years ago? You know, it's so easy for me to just reflect on that, to sit in that, to feel shame, to feel guilt, to not feel loved by God, because in my life I had to earn love. And kind of breaking away from that into a cycle where instead there's grace, instead there's mercy, instead there's you are loved and redeemed by God, and how are you built up in that? That's been really edifying for me, and it's been really beautiful. And I'd say coming alongside Lydia in that has been one of the coolest things of this year, if not the coolest, because walking alongside someone in a very intimate way, emotionally, spiritually, and so on, it's yeah, feels it feels like you are in solidarity with that person.
Mm.
It feels like you continue to have opportunities to speak the truth and the love of Jesus into that person, to lift that person up, or when you're feeling down, to have that person lift you up. I think Lydia and I mean, honestly, we have a lot of differences in our recovery. We struggle with different things in some ways, but seeing the brokenness in myself and seeing the brokenness in Lydia, sorry, honey, but like there's
True.
there's a lot of goodness in seeing that and then being, but I still care for you. I still want to love you like Jesus loves you, and you know, continually practicing that ethic of grace, of mercy, of redemption. Um, in the way that Jesus loves the church. You know, that
Mm.
those are all things that are very important to me. And yeah, I hope that's useful. I don't know if I'm being too broad, but yeah.
No, I love it. Lydia, how would you answer the same question?
Well, to kind of start at the same place where Heath started, yeah, CR, short for Celebrate Recovery, they really help you identify hurts, habits, and hangups. So helping, yeah, because we all react in a certain way. So it helps you figure out like where's the origin of that, of like the hang up of a habit that you have. Where was that hurt? Where was the lie from the enemy? What does God say about that in that moment or in that season? For me, I'm not sure where to start. I have so many thoughts. Yeah, it's been really cool because I personally, at least where I'm at in my recovery, I first, well, I can say that I have freedom from binge eating. I've suffered from that for about like 6 years. And like CR has really helped me in terms of, oh, where is that from? And you know, it's from generational sin, familial sin, personal sin. And right now I'm working through like distrust and specifically distrust towards men. And so like being in a relationship with Heath, as he has said, it's been really, really amazing. It's refining and edifying in a lot of different ways. Sometimes it can be really difficult and challenging because things just kind of align perfectly of like, but it's been really cool to see how there has been healing and freedom on both of our ends when we look kind of in reflection. Sorry, I'm like a little bit emotional. It's been really humbling that God would bless me with this man here, knowing that, yeah, there's a lot, or like a lot of baggage per se, and that at the end of the day, it's like Heath can't fulfill me and Heath can't heal me, but being in partnership with him, we come before God, and through that, we're able to find freedom and seek full healing, in which cycles will be repeated, Lord willing, moving forward in our relationship and our future. And yeah, just being able to experience together kind of, as I said, you know, beauty, like God's design of like, this is kind of how life is supposed to be like. If the world wasn't like, if the world wasn't broken and we weren't broken. But I think it's like the moments in which there's victory, I think it's something to cling on and to know that redemption is happening right now. And that's really cool.
I think I would also just like to add at the end, like we are in an interracial relationship, and that also like that does a lot of things. Like there are a lot of different cultural differences, and if we're talking or if we're working through something, I'll say, Lydia, we are in an interracial relationship. We're in slightly different life stages. We're in a pandemic, and we're both working through recovery together. There are a lot of things going on.
No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. But I trust God in the midst of it, and yeah, I see redemption in it.
Wow, guys, thank you so much for sharing those parts of your story with us. That is really special stuff. You've already done this, so you may be repeating yourself when I ask this question, but I do think it can be helpful to land it in this place. But as you've walked through this, and I mean, you're obviously still walking through it in a lot of different ways, but as you walk through some of this stuff, hurts, habits, and hangups, right, as CR likes to say, and you see that redemption that you just talked about happening. I mean, how does this help you understand God? What's something new that you've discovered about God through this process? And does it connect back to that idea of beauty, that I think Heath's answer of like that, oh, the goodness of God. So I guess to summarize my question, is there anything new that you've learned about God during this, and how does it connect back to beauty?
Okay. um, I think that one of the things that I continue to grow in is my sense of wonder at God's love. It's very easy. Again, I would say I grew up in a household that was very much an earning culture. It was about doing things in order to earn love. And again, I don't think that's out of the norm, but to continually say to myself, or continually to have said to me, Heath, like, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you are loved regardless of what you come with, regardless of who you are, regardless of what you've done. And I feel like that can become a cliche in this, and that's quite a sad thing, because it is a beautiful thing, and to feel it on a very deep level. I think about David, the character of David, who we've been studying at Discovery recently, and how he was a man after God's own heart, and he did a lot of terrible things, but
Indeed,
but we believe that God redeemed him, God loved him, and God cared for him because of that personal relationship that David had with God. And if the Bible is about God's redemption, or Jesus' redemption of humanity, me continually having that made known to myself through CR on a very personal level, not feeling like I have to work on my own strength, not feeling like I have to earn God's love. That's something I continue to wrestle with and work through, but just feeling it on a very visceral level, that's been really good.
Wow.
I think for me, so this is my second, I guess, like going on to second year of like CR. So for me, I think it's, just everything that he said, that it's like a reiteration and like a deepening, really meditating on what I've learned and what God has shown me last year in a newer light, especially like in our relationship. But knowing that like I cannot do things out of my own strength, and God is able to come alongside me and carry it with me and for me entirely. Understanding the immensity of God's love, which my mind can't fully wrap around.
Wow. I just, that's the only word that I can come up with to respond. I thank you guys so much for again sharing your thoughts, and not just your thoughts, but really your stories with us. And I mean, that's a sacred thing. I'll just say this: we've got a couple of other people in our community as well who have either been a part of or are currently a part of Celebrate Recovery. I would just throw this out there. Anybody watching, if you want to know more about Celebrate Recovery and what it is and what it does, hit up Heath and Lydia. I'm sure they'd be happy to tell you about it and how to get involved. But I want to end with something that I said earlier, just sort of repeating it. I'm so proud of you guys for tackling this stuff now and doing it at your stage of life, because a lot of people like myself don't deal with some of that stuff till much later. And I don't want to say it's easier when you're younger, but there's certainly, you certainly bypass some years and even some decades of not dealing with that stuff. So well done. I'm proud of you guys for doing that, and so grateful for you coming on here and sharing a little bit of your story with our community. So thank you for joining me on A Couch and a Chair. And this was a wonderful conversation.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for having us.